it's Annette here, and I'm with Renee Rivera. Hey, Renee.
Hi, Annette. Hey, everybody.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit. You had texted me earlier this weekend that you were doing something that was really tough. And since it has to do with sexual abuse, the subject, I was wondering if you'd be willing to be open to sharing what happened.
Sure. Yeah. Um, it would have been tougher if I stalled. I'll be honest.
Okay. What do you mean by stalled?
If I chose not to do it and just let it stew and try to decide what do I say, what I don't say, will I offend, will I not offend, should I or shouldn't I?
We've all had those feelings, that's for sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you do. And I decided I'm not going to walk in fear in this. I'm not going to walk in stewing and letting it brew into something that wasn't necessary to be brewed in. Meaning I could have walked in fear doing this and loathing doing it. But instead, when I felt a conviction that, hey, it's time, you and I have been doing videos, and one of the recent ones was about squashing silence.
Oh, yes.
And the thought came to mind was, wow, Renee, you've gone to the police for one lifetime, it felt like, almost 13 years of abuse. So finally went to the police with that, with my mom. But I was, what's the word? I was touched by another person, and I never approached them and told them it was inappropriate to do that. And I never confronted them.
Other than the situation when you were younger.
Correct. So this was something that happened as an adult.
Oh, okay.
It just within the last 10 years, this went down. And I was actually, I'll just explain. So basically what I did this week is I confronted someone who had improperly touched me, and that's considered a sexual assault. So at least that's my definition. There's a lot of people out there that have different definitions, but when it is an inappropriate touch in an area that shouldn't be touched by your spouse, only by your spouse, I consider that inappropriate, and I consider that an assault. So that's my definition. Any thoughts?
Well, what was the situation in a rated G form that you could explain what happened?
Okay, share it in a rated G form. Okay, so what happened was I had just come into town. I believe we lived out in Seattle and went to another state for a function where I had family and friends at. And I'm a hugger. And so, those that receive hugs, I'll give them. So just went up to different family and friends and gave them hugs. And one in particular, he'd never done this before, but he did it then. We gave each other a hug, and I still remember the purse I wore, the skirt I had on, so I remember those details. And he not only gave me the hug, but he slipped his hand all the way down my backside. I guess the nice way to say it is he copped a feel. He grabbed what he wasn't supposed to grab and held on. And it was shocking. In my head, I would have, you slap somebody instantly if you could. But I didn't react that way. I was more in shock. Like, how could this person that's supposed to be protecting me and who I've known since basically as a kid, why would he do that?
So it left you more in shock.
Yeah, wasn't my husband, wasn't my boyfriend. Don't do that. You don't do that to any woman. So yeah, my first reaction was shock, and I was trying to go through the process in my head of, well, maybe my purse was in the way. And so maybe he went around it, and maybe the only thing he could hug was my behind. And I'm like, no, people have enough smarts that they would just hug with the back, or they would go and do a shoulder one, but they would never go for below the waist, but that's what happened. And since then, instead of confronting him, I have I have told close people who are in that circle. I've told just only a couple people, told them out of warning, if this person did this to me, it just shocked me. And so they listened, and then we went on our way. That was it. But I've never confronted him directly. And after we did our Squashing Silence video and then reading some scripture, I just felt like, I need to give him a call. I need to reach out to him. And I need to let him know what he did was not right. And so I did. It was probably within 48 hours from the time the thought came to mind that I needed to do it, that I did it. I reached out, and because we're dealing with COVID times, I didn't know how that person felt about meeting in public, which I typically would do. I'd have a witness and I'd be in public, go to a public restaurant or something, be on neutral territory. But I didn't feel like that was an option because they're an older person. So I just thought, the only way I have to reach out was through the internet. And so I had a contact number and reached out on the internet messenger and just said, hey, I would really love an opportunity to talk with you when you get a free time in the next couple days or within the next week. I'd really like to chat with you. Didn't say what the subject was, none of that. And then we finally touched base, and was able to get on the computer for a very short amount of time. And I just asked if I could speak to him in private, away from his family. And so he gave me a cell phone number, and then we talked by phone, and I was able to share with him the incident.
Did he remember at all?
Nope, he didn't. No. So the way I opened it, which might be helpful for others, I just said, we had a run-in at an event, and I just want to talk to you about that run-in. And he couldn't remember. And I said, well, it wasn't a fight or a spat or a disagreement. I said, it was something else. And that's why I'd like to talk to you in private about it. And so, I said, well, if it's okay, if I could just jump in. He goes, yeah, because I'm curious. And so I just shared with him, here's what you did, and went through the details like I just shared with everybody here. And then I said, I just want to let you know that this is inappropriate. And I'm teaching others and sharing with others my story, and that it just seemed like it was not right for me to not confront you when I'm teaching others to do the same thing. So I didn't realize till now I needed to be confronting you. And that's why I'm on the phone with you now. And I just had to say it's inappropriate. And once I said that, I also said, I hope that you have not done this to others, and I hope you are not continuing it. And I found myself repeating it a few times. It's not appropriate actions. I was not your girlfriend. I'm not your spouse. We don't do those things. And he's like, man, well, what date was that? What event was that? And I could only tell him it was a wedding, but I couldn't tell him the exact date or whatever. So I didn't have all the details, but I didn't think that was necessary to validate. It was done, no matter if I remembered or not all the details.
Right.
But he did say, well, I don't remember, but if I did do that, I apologize. And that was nice. I mean, it's not that I needed that, but what I needed more was just the confrontation. But the fact that he took responsibility in that sense was good. So that was that piece of it. And the conversation went somewhere else as well, but that was the gist of it.
Oh, wow. You had a full weekend.
I did. Yeah. Yeah. I found that it was necessary because I believe that he had an ill understanding of what abuse was, an ill understanding of what is a person's privacy. Because it seems like it's a generation where some folks were raised up with it. Like, it's okay to go around and grope. It's okay to just touch when you're passing by. And that's what women's bodies are for, you know? A little bit of that pleasure, and it's no big deal. And I felt like I had to squash that. I didn't realize how big it was until that conversation. And then he had actually brought up 2 other incidences of some form of abuse that basically that he didn't believe was abuse. And I basically had to reiterate it was, and then bring in some education into that kind of, so it felt like this was a God moment to just re-educate what was proper and what's not.
Okay.
And I'm really hoping that he'll take it and move forward with this new information. Hope it rattled a little bit as well. But I felt like I squashed something in the sense of, this is not okay, and please don't bring it back to our circle again. And had I not spoken up, it could have been brought to other people as well. It could have been considered as, well, Renee didn't say nothing, then it must be all right to do. She's not
Yeah,
gonna,
I would assume it would happen again next time.
right? Yeah, either
Yeah, why wouldn't it?
again with me or again with other women. So who knows if the other women in our circle it's been done to, as well as, is that something common for other men in that group as well, you know? So who knows? So my hope is that I squashed a cycle of something by saying no more, and that it was
way to go. That was not easy, but I'm glad you avoided the stewing.
Yes, I agree. That
In hindsight, like you had said, that you would usually go see this person, whoever it is, and have somebody with you, type situation. Knowing that you have Zoom at your fingertips, maybe this person was older than that, so they wouldn't have, maybe not even know how to use FaceTime or whatever it is, even on their phones. But how else would you change anything, do it some other way? Or would you keep it the same as in doing it on a phone call and keeping it between you two?
What I tried to do, what I was considering is, should I have his wife in on it or not? And I had decided, no, let me approach him first. And then, depending on the response, then it would have gone further. I was trying to
Matthew 18, where go to the person that's offended you, and if they're not listening, then you come back and you bring somebody else with you. Okay.
Correct.
Sounds very biblical.
But what I would have done differently, I tried to do it by a computer, but he was having a lot of computer issues. So it was a Zoom meeting we originally did, but it took a while to try to get the connection because he had just gotten a new computer and the camera wasn't facing right. Then we weren't hearing each other. It was tingy. So just a lot of technical difficulties that made it go into a phone call. So that was not my first intention. My first intention.
I was curious about that.
It was a face-to-face to see body language. That was important to me. And when that failed after quite a long time of attempts of calling each other back, I wasn't going to create more frustration. And it was quite a bit of frustration. I'm sure on both ends to just try to hear each other. I was like, I just want to do this, and I can't even hear him. He can't hear me. So that's why it ended up being a phone call. That's not best case scenario. Best case scenario is I would have said, I'd like to meet you at this restaurant, and I would have brought somebody with me who I trust as a witness for the conversation. Because I found towards the end, it very easily could have been turned into Renee's crazy, and me being put into a category with other people based on some of the things that he brought up. Well, this person did this person did that. And I had to validate that other person's actions. And I kind of felt like I was starting to be put into a category of, well, this person, they think this way, therefore they're not quite, they don't have it accurate. And I had to say, here's the accurate picture of this. And so I brought that person into my category versus me being put into his opinion category. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I would have, if I could have done it different, absolutely. In public with a witness who knew the story and who knew what my goals and intentions were. that would have, had I been not as strong, say I could have cowered being face to face with him, or maybe broke into tears or whatever, they could have held my hand or encouraged me or said, remember, here's your points that you wanted to get across. I did write a little note of what my points were because that helped me stay on focus as well.
Oh, okay. That's helpful to know.
Huh?
That's helpful to know. That you gave yourself little bullets.
Yeah, it's important to me because I could go everywhere. But have the bullets. And I think I would have asked him to not have a mask if we met face to face. And right now we're in COVID times. I mean, I can go out to dinner with friends and we can take off our mask at the table. I would have preferred that because I want to see an expression. It's important to me to watch body language and such, you know. But neutral territory would have been wise as well. So.
Well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Hopefully it encourages someone else to know what's appropriate and what's not, and to speak up. And if you can say it right when it happens, shoot, go for it. So it doesn't have to be brought back up and dealt with again in another conversation. Just nab it when it happens. Just don't do that. That's not okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks for asking.
You bet. All right. We'll chat again.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.